Hey, what's up guys? Hope you're all doing well. These are the gaming peripherals that I've been using so far in 2022. Really happy with this setup, and it's pretty much what I'm going to continue using moving forward. I know I've done separate videos on each piece of gear here, but it's just really nice to have a single video wrapping everything up and also giving you guys, some more longer term thoughts after those reviews. So let's start off with the gaming mouse, which is the Zorn Koenig M2K. If you missed my review of this thing, definitely go back and watch that, but to sum things up, aiming with this thing feels like nothing else I've ever tried. When you're dialed in and warmed up, it literally feels like you're aiming with your eyes. It's just a really nice aiming experience. So I've been using this ever since I reviewed it a couple of months ago, and yeah, it's been a really good experience, getting really familiar with it. To be honest, ever since I picked it up, it's felt really comfortable since day one, and one of the biggest questions I get is how uncomfortable it must be to play with, because you hold it like this, it is just extremely small. The kind of assumption here is that you'd eventually get some wrist pain and hand cramps and stuff like that, but it could not be any more of the opposite. This just feels super comfortable to use. You barely have to grip it. Like, it is so small and light that the actual pressure of your grip is just so insignificant. So you can play for hours and hours, and it basically feels like no strain on your hand at all. Now, a little added bonus here, this is also the fastest gaming mouse that I've tested in terms of input lag, both for the clicks and the sensor. So big thumbs up to whatever Zorn Koenig are doing here, because yeah, seems to be working pretty well. The only downside to this mouse is the price, which is 300 euros, and that's basically equal to 3 G Pro Superlights. Very expensive. But regardless, this is my mouse of choice at the moment when I'm playing sweaty first-person shooters. Really enjoying it, and I don't plan on upgrading from it anytime soon. But for editing, day-to-day use, general desktop stuff, that's when I switch over to the G303. Now, for a while there, I was actually using the G Pro Superlight with the Glass Superglide mouse gates, and man, that was a really fun setup to use. The reason that I stopped using that setup though was because I began to feel a lot of inconsistency across the mouse pad, and it didn't matter what mouse pad I was using, it'd be totally fine on a fresh new mouse pad with no inconsistency at all, and then after a couple of months of use, there'd be like noticeable dead spots, which would really throw me off. So Superglides, I still think they're pretty good. The glass gates themselves don't wear down, it's just they really pick up on the inconsistency of certain pads. You do really need a fresh, clean pad for them to feel nice and consistent. So Zorn Koenig M2K, really big fan of it. It's one of those products that kind of makes you want to play games and actually inspires you to get better, simply because of like how limitless it is. Really feels that way for me anyway. Mousepad that I'm using is the Artisan Hayate Otsu. This is the soft XL version. I've had this for about 8 months now, pretty good condition. It does have like a little bit of wearing towards like the top and middle area, which is kind of where I mostly play, but for the most part, it still feels like a pretty new pad. I will mention that, using the M2K, this thing is 23 grams. It doesn't really matter what mouse pad you use. I could be using the slowest pad or the fastest pad, and it would still glide really effortlessly simply by how light it is. Now, I will mention that the reason that I'm using the Hayate Otsu over different pads with this specific mouse is because of how smooth the surface is on the Hayate Otsu. Using the M2K kind of means that you have a lot of hand contact with the mouse pad, so it's important then that the pad itself isn't like grabbing onto your skin. And so for me, I find the Hayate Otsu really smooth, and I can just glide over it really nicely. Now, when it comes to the audio stuff, I'm still actually using the Sennheiser IE300 IEMs, and I'm still absolutely in love with these things. These are probably my favorite thing across the entire setup, even over my PC or my keyboard, for example. They're just so good, so comfortable, and I can safely say at this point that I've comfortably left the full-sized over-the-ear headphones. Now, of course, audio gear can get really expensive. Like, these are $300. To a lot of people, that is pretty expensive for like a gaming product, but a lot of people actually have been pushing me to try more expensive stuff, IE600s, IE900s, even stuff, from brands I've never even heard about, but you look at the price tag and they're like thousands of dollars of IEMs out there. I understand that there is potentially a better audio experience out there, But I'm going to be real, I'm just too satisfied with the quality and the experience that I'm getting these to even care about what else is out there. The real standout thing here for me is the comfort. It is just insane. Now there is that break-in period of about a week or two where the inside of your ear will have to adapt. You might get a little bit of tenderness, but beyond that, they just slip into your ears and you really do forget that they're there. Really, the only negative thing that I've experienced with the IE300s is the cable. A couple of times now, the audio has started to cut out when I turn my head a certain way. Luckily, I can fix this by simply unplugging it and replugging them in, but I think moving forward, if that issue pops up again, I'll be checking out some aftermarket cables. And I've still got these plugged into the Evo 4 audio interface from Audient. Really solid interface that does everything that you need it to do, and I've been using this for about 2 years now. Really just one of those pieces of gear that you pick up, it gets the job done, and then there's no real need to keep looking for an upgrade or anything like that. I did, however, test out the Wave XLR from Elgato just out of curiosity and because I was getting a lot of questions about it. This does have a stronger microphone amp, but for whatever reason, I just get a lot of white noise and static when using IEMs. Every IEM that I've tested so far with the Wave XLR, just a bunch of static. Of course, I've tried different cables, different USB ports on the PC. Doesn't seem to be a problem with full-sized headphones, but yeah, unfortunately not something that I can recommend with IEMs. The microphone as well, something that I've been using for about 2 years now, and it's not something that I can really ever imagine upgrading from, and that's the legendary Shure SM7B. To get enough gain out of this thing with the Audient Evo 4 though, I do have to use the SE Dynamite DM1, and that way I get plenty of gain to work with for things like streaming. One thing that I have changed about this audio setup though is the boom arm that I'm using with the microphone. This is the Elgato low profile boom arm. I saw this on one of the setup reviews that I did recently, and yeah, I just knew I had to have it because it looked way more comfortable. And yeah, it is a lot more comfortable to what I was using previously, which was the Rode PSA-1. Very popular option, but it has to go above your monitor or across your desk. This one just goes underneath your monitor and you can get it in a really nice, comfortable talking position. So big fan of this one, works quite well, looks super clean as well. The only bad thing is that if you need to make constant adjustments to the arm height, that's when it is a step behind the spring mounted stuff from Rode or Blue, for example. This arm is friction mounted, which is pretty annoying in my opinion. You have to constantly loosen it up and tighten it up if you want to make adjustments to the height. But the way that I've got it set up is that I don't really have to make those adjustments. It just kind of stays in the same position and it just swings out from behind the monitor pretty easily. Now as for the keyboard, it is still actually the Tofu 60% from KBD fans. I'm sure a lot of you are sick of seeing this one, but again, it's just one of those pieces of gear that I've just been satisfied with and I've kept using. It's not the craziest sounding keyboard in the world. It's actually quite a harsh and stiff sounding keyboard. But yeah, overall still happy with it. 60% lubed Gateron black ink switches, brass plate, and of course we've got those super clean black blank keycaps. But yeah, for now this is what I will continue to use. Just been really happy with it. I would actually love to do maybe a V3 of this Tofu 60%, maybe with a polycarbonate plate, maybe some different switches. But yeah, until then, it's been a really good experience with this keyboard. Again, keyboards can get extremely expensive, similar to the audio stuff. You can get well into the thousands of dollars. But again, I've just kind of been too satisfied with the experience here to kind of really care what else is out there. So that's what I'm currently using. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Really happy with this setup. If you're interested in picking any of this stuff up, I will have links down below in the description. As always, a huge thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next one.